Hey everyone. This review was sort of an experiment I was doing by having a guest on and recording it through Skype. Unfortunately, my audio came out not so great. I still think the content of the review is worth listening to, but if you hear how it sounds now, this is how it should have sounded. I'm fixing it so that in the future, if I have guests on, it won't be an issue. Anyway, enjoy me and Peter the Cine-Masochist reviewing the Green Inferno. Hey everyone, it's Cecil. I'm doing something a little bit differently this week. I wanted to talk about the movie that just came out, The Green Inferno, and I'm a really big fan of Eli Roth, and my friend Peter, the Cine-Masochist, is not particularly fond of him, so I thought it would be an interesting thing to have the both of us on to discuss whether or not this movie was actually good. As I said, joining me this week is Peter, the Cine-Masochist.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. The Green Inferno, for those of you who don't know, it is Eli Roth's most recent film. Now, this is a guy who started off with Cabin Fever and moved on to Hostel and Hostel 2. After that, he went into acting for a little while, and he did this movie in 2013, but was having trouble finding distribution and didn't get released until finally now in 2015. Was it worth the wait? Peter, what'd you think?
Yeah, speaking as you said, somebody who's not very fond of Eli Roth, I was actually surprised that this was a movie that I was looking forward to. Well, not so much because I'm a huge fan of the whole cannibal jungle savage thing, so I didn't even realize that it was Eli Roth at first, and then found out it was him, and was kind of excited for it anyway, because it's a type of movie that hadn't come out for a while. Like, I mean, movies had touched on cannibal stuff, but this was really like the Ruggero Deodato Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox style film, and we haven't gotten anything like that for a long time. So I was actually looking forward to it for a while, and having seen it, speaking as a non-Roth fan, I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought the first half hour went a little slow because my biggest gripe with Roth is his writing. And the writing in this one, much like with Cabin Fever, much like with Hostel, for me, it's the build-up scenes to his movies that piss me off the most, because I just feel like he writes the most absolutely annoying characters on Earth. And in this one, you've got the whole activist build-up. This chick wants to get into this activist group, and they're going to Peru to the jungles, to the Peruvian jungles, to stop, like, deforestation because there's a tribe living in the area. And just the whole buildup of that is like, it almost felt like The Room, just how clunky the dialogue and such was. But then when they actually get captured, or even the part where they're protesting against the deforestation dudes with all their big trucks and the dudes with the guns and stuff, that was actually really intense. And when the plane crashes and when they're captured by the cannibals, that's like, the movie goes full throttle, and Roth knows how to do actual horror stuff. He's great with the gore. The performance has got a lot better there. So it's a movie that I would call it the only Eli Roth movie that I enjoyed, I'd say, thoroughly. Like, I liked certain aspects of Cabin Fever, but not enough of it to like the whole thing. Same with Hostel. I felt like that one took way too long to get into it, along with the sequel. But this one, I feel like he did a very good job with the cannibal thing. And I guess we'll get into other stuff on the movie, but overall, I thought it was pretty goddamn kick-ass.
Excellent. I genuinely loved it. I see where you're coming from with how you're saying the setup goes a little slower with the characters that aren't necessarily likable. But I don't know. Like, I guess I know a lot of assholes because Cabin Fever, they kind of come off a little intentionally dude bro. But Hostel, they were just a bunch of friends that were a little douchey, but they were just looking to have fun, and they ended up in a really bad spot. With this, I liked the two lead girls. I liked the girl with the silver hair, Sky Ferreira, who really wasn't in the movie for very long. But I liked how she just hated everything. And then the main girl, Justine, who is, I believe, is Eli Roth's wife. I think that she was kind of being the slightly naive freshman college student, but once she got over there, she was much more believable. She's a hell of a screamer, and the situations that she got put in, you genuinely felt bad for her.
When she was actually captured and like screaming her head off and stuff, she was actually good, but like the opening 30 minutes, I felt she was very empty. This might sound weird, but I feel like And maybe it's because he was, in my opinion, the only good actor in the film. But like the bad guy, the Alejandro guy, to me, I felt was the most likable because I actually believed his performance.
It wasn't as gory as a lot of the old cannibalism movies, the cannibal exploitation.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I think it may be possibly on par with Ferox. I'd say it's gorier than Cannibal Holocaust. I think people remember that movie being a lot more violent than it really is. And a lot of people are comparing Green Inferno with Cannibal Holocaust, but to me, it felt way more like Ferox, like just the mangled, half-eaten, rotting bodies on pikes, and just how gruesome all the limbs being torn off and people being eaten alive and stuff. Like, it was very in your face and very raw. So it felt more like an Umberto Lenzi movie rather than a Ruggero Deodato one, and I thought it did a damn good job of that.
Yeah, the gore effects and everything were incredibly well done, and I think that they were also done. I don't want to say tastefully, but they didn't embellish in them too much. Like, they kind of showed what they needed to show and the scenes to make them as visceral as possible, but they could have lingered on them a lot more and made them a lot more disgusting, and I don't think they would have had as much of an impact, because there does come that point of where you show too much gore and it just desensitizes you to it. Whereas this, they got in, they showed, people being hacked up, they showed people being eaten, but it was just enough to really give you that sensation of like, all right, these guys are in a lot of trouble.
Like, when that fat guy is being hacked up, that's probably the most violent scene of the movie, and I think it sets the tone perfectly, because you're shown everything. You're shown his eyeballs are being ripped out, his tongue, his legs and arms are severed, you see him getting cooked and stuff, and that really sets it in perfectly when you see that gruesome shit and the characters are terrified. And that guy as well, I felt was kind of likable too, because he was just kind of like a nice, goofy, fat dude, and I think that was the intention. You were supposed to like him, and it was kind of a cheap thing to do to get that emotional kind of thing. But yeah, I kind of got attached to him, and I felt bad that he had to go first, and he died in the worst way.
One of the things that a lot of people aren't talking about the movie is it had, once again, Eli Roth's sense of humor. It wasn't like comedic relief. It wasn't stupid guy doing stupid things. It was just kind of something that was said or something that was done that was very dark humor. Like the first guy that gets eaten.
Oh, that guy, yeah, just being a complete asshole. It's like, lucky that they ate him first. They got enough to eat for weeks.
Right. So, and then everybody's just like, oh, you dick. Oh, that's so brutal, but that is kind of funny.
For me, there's always a point in an Eli Roth movie where I make a sound that I make when I'm watching any of his movies, and it's ugh. And in this movie, what made me make that sound was when they got all the cannibals high. They find a way, let's just say, to get the cannibals high, and it actually ends up working. And then one of the guys that gets eaten alive, as they're like chasing him and shit, he says, "They've got the munchies." And of course, cue, ugh. There's like the stupid, funny, like dark humor stuff. Like, I like they've got enough to eat for weeks. That was like a good dark humor thing. But like, oh my God, like pothead cannibals, they've got the munchies. I thought that was just fucking painfully stupid.
I don't know. I chuckled. And I know if there were a couple of people in the theater that kind of chuckled with that, but that didn't bother me. Actually, the only thing that, I don't want to say it bothered me, but it just kind of was like a little like, was the part with the bullet ants.
Oh, God, the movie had a not the bees moment.
Yeah, the movie had a not the bees moment, and it was like bad CGI ants. Now, granted, it was a very short scene, so it didn't go on for too long, and it didn't really detract from the movie overall. But it's like, if this was an old school cannibal movie, they would have just dumped real ants on them.
Yeah, just like regular ants, and pretended like they were super dangerous.
Because the thing is, the CGI ants that they threw on him, I couldn't see them biting him. So if they would have just put regular, I mean, it would have sucked for the actor, but have him sign a clause and throw him a couple extra bucks. Hey, here, we're going to dump some ants on you and, deal with it. It'll suck, but they're ants. And it would have been a lot more effective.
Yeah, it was totally like the bees in the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man. It was laughably bad. A lot of people laughed in the theater, including myself, when I saw those. What else? That tiger thing was CG too, and it was on the rock, and they're looking at it, and everybody's like reacting to something. The one chick's like, "That's my next tattoo," and I'm looking. What the fuck are we supposed to be looking at? The camera is very shaky. I don't know what is actually there, and until they said it was some tiger or puma thing, and then I notice it, and it's like, whoa, that's awful. That kind of detracted a little bit from it, because those movies were very well known for using genuine things, genuine animals, bugs. In Cannibal Holocaust case, genuine cannibals. And in this case, you've got the really, really shitty CG ants, that horrible tiger thing that's like kind of plopped on the side of the rock while the camera is shaking. And I'm disappointed by another thing. Nobody was castrated. That's something that happens in a lot of these Jungle Savage movies. And I guess they mixed it around because there's that threat of the
female castration.
Yeah, the female castration, the genital mutilation which they do with the tribes, and that was actually really effective. I thought they did that really well. But yeah, just the shitty CG is my one gripe, and a lack of dicks being cut off, because man, did those Italian cannibal movies know how to do that good and freak the fuck out of you with it.
Yeah, they love just chopping dicks left and right, man.
Yeah.
The gore effects for when people were being torn apart, when people were being eaten, when people were being cooked was impressive. But the two CGI moments, the CGI lion, spirit animal, whatever it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was some like gray thing. I don't know what the fuck it was.
I don't know why you couldn't have just, maybe not rented, but I'm sure there's some zoo animal thing where, because they didn't even have to do that over in Africa. They could have just found like some kind of rock face that looked similar. The audience is going to know the difference, and lead the animal out there and have it sit out there and look all majestic for 5 seconds and then move on. I don't know why they felt the need to have this animal sit out there, and it did kind of look hokey, but that didn't bother me as much as the ants, because the ants were more presented. Like, I knew that was coming too, because they mentioned in the beginning when they're in the class and they're like, all right, well, we're talking about female genital mutilation and then the ants. And I'm like, okay, well, somebody later on is going to be eaten by some friggin' ants. I thought they had a couple of cool little homages to Cannibal Holocaust. So I think that...
Oh, yeah, the dudes up on the pikes, like the iconic cover and scene of the film. Not quite as effective because they all had their clothes on, but it was still a cool little nod to it. Obviously, great nods to Cannibal Ferox as well, with because to me, one of the most horrifying moments in Ferox is when you see that mangled body up on the pike, and it's like half-eaten and gross, and fucking worms going in and out of the eye holes. And I feel like they recreated that really well, and it actually looked better in Green Inferno. Like, it was little things like that I found, like the death scenes, the mutilation is super gruesome and violent, but to me the scariest shit is when you get that visage of what happened to somebody before and what's coming for these characters, like this half-eaten mangled corpse. That to me that's the scariest part of the cannibal movie, is when you're seeing shit like that and you can see what the fate is for the characters.
When they first get taken into the tribe and they're all like, bringing them to their to the cage, and they're looking at all the bodies and skulls and everything, and they know, this is kind of what our fate's going to be. That really did kind of make your heart sink.
And it was so claustrophobic too, where like it's great how they did it with the cannibals, like really touching them and just in their face and yelling and all this stuff, and that was really genuinely tense. I thought they did it in like all the stuff, in the village, and all the torture stuff, the way the cannibals were shot, their war paint and stuff like that. Everything was just, God, really fucking good. Like, I'm kind of genuinely surprised by how much I ended up enjoying the movie. Even like I was able to look past the shitty, almost Birdemic level acting in the first 30 minutes. But yeah, the rest of the movie, holy fucking shit, solid. Just damn. Like, damn is the one word I can use to describe.
So overall, I think it was genuinely good. A lot of you probably already know whether or not you're going to see this, because there are some of you that just don't have the stomach for a movie about cannibalism. I personally think that it was great. It was a total throwback to the old cannibal movies, and it's a kind of movie that we just don't get anymore. So if you're on the fence about this movie, if you like this kind of horror film, I definitely say go see it in a theater. What do you think?
Definitely an excellent love letter to the works of dudes like Lenzi, Diodato, Fulci, that it's got that kind of vibe to it. A few gripes with the CG. I didn't really like the camera being used too much. I thought it was a little too sharp. Didn't do too well with like all the green of the forest and stuff, and made it a little too eye gouging. I think with a cannibal movie, a softer focus works a bit better. But that's probably because I'm just, I'm used to the late 70s, early 80s Cannibal Ferox and Cannibal Holocaust kind of stuff. But overall, really good, even as somebody who generally doesn't like Eli Roth, even though some of the writing was a bit shit, some of the acting was a bit shit. The majority of the film is awesome, and I recommend it to anybody who's, especially if you're a big fan of Cannibal Ferox and Holocaust in particular. A lot of throwbacks to it.
All right, that's the Green Inferno. Somebody who loves Eli Roth says yes. Somebody who doesn't like Eli Roth also says yes. Again, if you're into this sort of thing, if you like your horror movies where there's a lot of jump scares and stuff, you're not particularly going to enjoy this. If you like a little bit of gore, well, I shouldn't say a little bit of gore. If you like
a lot
of bit of gore and a lot of really tense moments, it's definitely worth your while. I'll see you next time.